to learn.
Okay. So I've just put at the side here Refuah Shlema for Chava Rivka Yehudis Malka and Tinok Ben Chava Rivka, who just had C-section here in England and with COVID. So it's
Well, Refuah Shlema to everybody on every level. Everyone
and
needs.
the schus of Rabbi Tursky, please.
Bezrat Hashem. He doesn't need our chusim. He.
Okay, well, we can still help his Aliyah and Hashem. I hope for you everything that we do for him. Well, what he does for us continuously, I should say. What he does for us.
Right. Okay, let's start to learn. So this Shabbos is Parshas Yisro, and we're going to be reading in the Torah. So Joanne, you have to mute yourself, sweetie. We're reading the Torah, the Aseret HaDibros, the 10 Commandments. And I don't know what the matzav is. I don't know what the situation is by you guys in England. But if you can get to a minyan and hear the Aseret HaDibros in Shul, it's a very big thing to do. We do this 3 times a year. We read the Aseret HaDibros 3 times a year. We read it this week, Parshas Yisro. Then we read it on Shavuos when it actually happens. And then we read it on Parshas Vayeschanan in the book of Devarim, when Moshe Rabbeinu repeats the entire Torah. So he reiterates the 10 Commandments. And each of the times that we read the Aseret HaDibros, the 10 Commandments in Shul, we stand up as a congregation. And we picture to ourselves that we are now standing by Har Sinai. We're standing by the mountain of Sinai, and we're all as one unit. We're one unit, and we are accepting the Torah together. We know that all of us need each other, meaning nobody can do all the 613 mitzvot alone. We need Kohanim and Levim and Yisrael. We need rich people, and we need the opposite. We need learned people, and we need the opposite. We need everybody we need men and women and children. In order to fulfill all the mitzvot of the Torah, we need all of us. And I tell my Israeli shiurim, and I'll share this with you also, that whenever, I've noticed this, that whenever we have a very, very special, like a scholadik time, a very special time when Mashiach could come, when big geulas could come, then Hashem has a whole system. Hashem has a system of justice. And the system of justice will be in operation until Mashiach comes. And this system of justice forces an equal balance in this world, an equal and opposite. So when we have Mashiach's ability to come and to bring unity and to bring peace and to bring well-being into the world, until actually Mashiach manifests himself, until that happens, we have challenges exactly in the area of unity. So before we started the shir, so the ladies were talking about the vaccine and Israel, and is it good, is it not good, and so one of the things that we have to be very, very vigilant about is that whatever decision a person makes, yes, a vaccine, not a vaccine, yes, different types of alternative treatments or more westernized treatments, whatever choice a person makes, that's their choice. And we have to accept their choice, even if we have a different choice, and not make separations in the Jewish people, because separation brings catastrophe. And even though each of us thinks that our way is the right way, we must not cause any arguments, any machlokas, any divisions. That's much more dangerous than anything else in the world, is division within the Jewish people and division within a person's heart vis-a-vis another Jew. The strongest mitzvah you can fulfill right now is v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Okay, so now, because the 10 Commandments are being given on Shabbos, And because the parsha is always indicative of the energy coming into the world. And because we're all going to re-accept the 10 Commandments this week, this Shabbos, it's actually happening now, because I'll tell you why. It's the 6th Aliyah in the Torah, and today's Thursday, almost Friday. So even though we're going to read it on Shabbos, but the whole week is the energy of the parsha. So because of that, I want to point out to you two very interesting things in Tehillim. We're going to be doing 2 prakim now. And they're parallel to each other. Okay, so we're going to be learning not the whole parak of each, just we're going to be learning 2. We're going to be jumping from 2 prakim. Both of these prakim are called the prakim of Torah learning in Tehillim. You know that Tehillim is divided into many different subdivisions. One book, right? One Sefer Tehillim, but you know that it has 5 Sfarim, it has 5 books, paralleling the 5 Chamisha Chumshei Torah. When any of you say the Sefer Tehillim together, you know that when you get to the end of Sefer Aleph, it says, you jump to the tefillah in the end, and it says, just like I've said, Parak Al, the first book of Tehillim, which is paralleling the first book of the Chumash, etc., etc. And if you notice, you can actually see, it's so fascinating, you could see the whole book of Tehillim only has 150 prakim, but you could see the proportion of all the prakim vis-a-vis or parallel to the proportion of the size of Chumash Bereishis, Chumash Shmos, etc. You can look at it on your own and you'll see such a thing. So this division of 5 into the 5 books of the Chumash, and then of course, there's a division into psukim verses and prakim chapters, and then, for the days of the month, the days of the week, there's different subdivisions. The subdivision that King David did himself is chapters, verses, and the 5 books. The 5 books of Tehillim, which David HaMelech divided into, those 5 books are from David HaMelech, that division. And in the first book and the last book, he put in 2 chapters devoted to extolling the virtues of Torah. Okay, and both of these chapters have a similar number to them. So one of them is chapter 19, and the other is chapter 119. So chapter 19 is about the virtues of Torah, and chapter 119 is about the virtues of Torah. And yes, the numbers there are paralleling each other. Even though we learned in the very, very beginning, when we had our introduction to Tehillim, we learned that the Sefer Tehillim as we have now, in the order that we have now, is not the consecutive order that David HaMelech lived it and wrote it. He rearranged the prakim. However, he definitely put a significance to which is Parak Aleph, there's a reason for each of the prakim being enumerated and numbered the way it is. And one of the parallels that you could see is when you have, let's say, look at, on your own, if you want to do a study. So divide the book of Tehillim into 3 sections, 50, 50, and 50, and then look at chapter, let's say, 19, and then chapter 69, because 69 would be 50 plus 19, and then chapter 119. So here I'm giving you a hint, and I'm doing that work for you by showing you that chapter 19 and chapter 119 are parallel. But you can look at all of the prakim and see that. And by the way, in the parak of your life, of your age, right? So let's say you're age 20. So if you're age 20, you're saying chapter 21. Because if you're age 20, sorry to do this to you ladies, but I'm going to age you in a minute. If you're calling yourself 20 years old, that means that you have finished 20 years of your life. You've completed 20 years of your life, and you are in the 21st year of your life. Just think about when a baby's 1 year old, right? When a baby's 1 year old, what does it mean? It means that the baby has completed the first year of that child, of the baby's life. So when you're 20 years old, when you call yourself 20 years old, you're really 21, or you're in your 21st year of life. So therefore, you would read chapter 21. So you might want to look at chapter 21, chapter 71, or chapter 121, and see if you can find parallels in your own life. For sure, you can, if you're 20 years old and you're reading chapter 21, you can find you could find parallels to your life in the chapter that you're reading, for sure. You have to look at it. Rabbi Nachman from Rochel teaches this. He says, find yourself in the Tehillim that you're saying. Okay, so that's your job. And by the way, if you do it for your children, if you do it for your grandchildren, you can get a lot of direction and a lot of insight. So today, let's look at chapter 19. Why chapter 19? Because the Vilna Gaon says that chapter 19 is the Shir Shel Yom for Chag HaShavuot, for the holiday of Shavuos, the receiving of the Torah. So, we have a Shir Shel Yom, we have a daily song of Tehillim that the Kohanim would sing, that the Levim would sing in the Beis HaMikdash every day, right? Today's Yom Chamishi, today's Thursday. So look on the, it says in the end of Shacharis. At the end, if you get to the end of Shacharis, you'll see every single day the Levim sang a song. It happens to be that the songs that they sing, except for 3 and 4 days of the week, they sang difficult songs. 3 days of the week, they sang easier songs. You can look at it and you'll see what I'm talking about. But then the Vilna Gaon has a whole list of, for every holiday, what's the Shir Shel Yom, the special holiday, the special Tehillim that you say, or that references that holiday. And he says that chapter 19 is the chapter for Shavuos. That's what we're going to study. We're going to look at it first. And we're going to look at the first 7 psukim. I'm just going to tell you what they mean, because we have to accomplish a lot today. The first 7 psukim of this parak of Tehillim have nothing to do with Torah, overtly. Of course, everything has everything to do with Torah. But the first 7 psukim say, the heavens talk about the greatness of God and all the actions of Hashem. The higher heavens refer to the day expresses God's greatness, the night expresses God's greatness, the sun expresses God's greatness, the whole heavens, the whole cycle of the sun expresses Hashem's greatness. And again, on that one thought, we could talk for days, months, years about how genius is Hashem and how we know that if the planet Earth were 1 inch closer to the sun, we would burn up. And if planet Earth were 1 inch further away from the sun, we would freeze. And if the sun would tilt in one direction, we would have floods here, etc., etc. This is all from science. Science is also a portion of God, meaning God created the world. Everything is from Hashem. So that's the first part of the Torah, of the parak. But now, out of nowhere, that's all, first 7 psukim talking about God's greatness in nature. Now comes Pasuk Ches, the 8th Pasuk. Torah Hashem Tamima, the Torah of God is perfect. Meshivas Nafesh, it restores your soul. It gives you life. Eidos Hashem Ne'emana, the testimonies of God are faithful. Machkim as Pesi. And they make you wise. Even if you're not necessarily wise, they make you wise. So what is that? What is that? It's like a 180-degree turn. Not only that, but you should know that we learned this already a few times. That in Tehillim, Parak Aleph and Parak Bet, chapter 1 and chapter 2 are really one chapter. The Gemara says it's really one chapter. But for a certain reason, it was divided into 2 sections. Here, you have one chapter that should be divided into 2 sections in terms of topic, but it's not. It's included in one chapter. So the Malbim teaches that it's all the same. The Malbim says you can see Hashem's greatness if you learn science. And you can see Hashem's greatness, lahavdil, to make a separation in a higher level. You see Hashem's greatness when you learn Torah. And which is the preferred method of seeing Hashem's greatness? It depends on who you are and where you are and what your capacity is. If you have a head for science and you have a head to really, really be God-oriented, that every time you learn anything in science, you will just see awesome God. You will say, Hashem, how did you think that? How did you figure that out? The other day, the reason I had to switch machines is because my computer had to have a reset and I didn't get the Zoom to work right on it. So the other day I had a computer person here, a little tzaddikel of an avrech who just learned computers on his own. The neighbor's son-in-law, a fabulous family. And I said, and he's now working in a I don't want to say the name, one of the highest computer companies in the world. that happens to have a branch here in Eretz Yisrael. So, and he's completely self-taught. So when they hired him, they were a little bit shocked, but he's a yeshiva guy. He's a kollel guy. He just happens to have a chush, like a feel for computers. And since he's a little kid, he just takes them apart, puts them back together again. He started opening up my computer. I thought like, oh no, what's he forgetting? No, he pulls out this, pulls out that, push that in, no, fearlessly. And then opens up all kinds of things on my computer that I never knew existed. Now that's just a computer. Humans invented that. And I'm amazed by it. Could you imagine? Hashem invented that. And Hashem invented the human brain to invent a computer. Okay, this is a topic that's a favorite topic of mine. I could go on forever and ever about the genius of Hashem that you could see through everything in this world, through science, through math, through art, through history, through current events. You look with your eyes, you just see Hashem. But the David HaMelech is telling us, but if you really want to see Hashem, Torah Hashem Temima, study Torah. Edus Hashem Ne'emana, study the Edus. The Edus means the mitzvot that we do that testify to things. Like, for example, Shabbos. That's the one that we all do. Every single week, we testify that Hashem is the creator of the world. Why do we keep Shabbos? Okay, you say, because the Torah says. But what does the Torah say about keeping Shabbos? Ki sheishes yamim, right? It says Hashem created the world in 6 days. We say it in Kiddush. And Bayom HaShvi, on the 7th day, Yishavas Vayinafash, he stopped. So we're testifying when we keep Shabbos that there's a creator, that Hashem created the world, that he didn't abandon the world, that he's in the world, that he is directing the world. That's called an edus, an aid. We're witnesses. Okay, and so study those things. Pikudei Hashem Yesharim, the pikudim of Hashem. What are the pikudim of Hashem? So in the deeper understanding, the Rochel talks about the pikudim. The pikudim are those mitzvot that, number one, absolutely make us fall in love with God and make God fall in love with us. Now, we don't have a list of pikudim. We don't know which of those mitzvot. We know which of the mitzvot, the eidos, like tefillin, when the men wear tefillin, right? The pikudim, the Ibn Ezra and the Radak say that that the pikudim are those kinds of mitzvot that, and the Ramchal says, that make us just fall in love with God, because our own mind can see the incredible depth of spirituality in them. Like tznius, modesty, I would put that in the pikudim. When you think about what modesty is all about and what God is helping us to accomplish by all the laws of modesty, you just have to say thank you Hashem, that you made us aware. We understand it, we could see, but look at the gift that you've given us of these pikudim. And by the way, modesty is one of those mitzvot that helps people truly fall in love with each other. I'll tell you a cute story. My students are going to hear the story later when I pass this on when I pass the shir on to them in Chutzlars. I have a whole bunch of students. They're mamish tzaddikus. They're such amazing women, and they all had a hard time with tznius, with dressing modestly, and they all had a hard time with hair covering. They're young, gorgeous, they had a hard time with that mitzvah, and they all were able to fulfill it. And they were, this is a chevra that had been together like for their whole life, educationally and culturally and family even. So they told me this story. They said once on the Motzei Shabbos, years and years ago, when they were all like within the first 3 years of marriage, in the first 3 years of marriage, your sheitel's still gorgeous and you still get dressed up. So they all went out Motzei Shabbos for pizza, and they were sitting around talking about hashkafa. Okay, you see, Baalei Tshuva, they're a whole different world. When they sit around, they talk about hashkafa. Couples, I'm talking about couples. And they were talking about hair coverings. And somehow it came out. Now, all of those girls were wearing their long, gorgeous sheitels. And maybe one of them was wearing a mitpachet, maybe, or a hat. And somehow it came out that there was a conversation between the women and the men about that the men admitted that they prefer that their wives go outside without a long fancy sheitel. They understand why they do it. They understand, they're grateful to them. They even wear a wig, but they prefer, if they shouldn't be so like glamorous outside. And the girls were sitting there at the table, like with their eyes popped open, saying, you think I want to wear this for me? I wear this for you. And the men were saying, if you're wearing it for me, when we go out couples, wear your hat, wear your beret, wear your kerchief. And that was like a shocking thing. So the laws of modesty can actually help people love the essence of what the person is, rather than the externals of what the person is. Okay, those are pikudim. And pikudei yeshar mesamchei lev, they make us happy. Why? Because we love. We love. All love makes a person happy. Mitzvahs Hashem bara me'iras einayim. The mitzvahs, the actual commandments of God, are clear, like barur. Barur in Hebrew means clear. And they enlighten your eyes. They make you see clearly. Are you in a confusion? Is anybody in a confusion? I think there's a lot of confusion going on in the world today. I think there is. Guess what? You want to get unconfused? You want to have clarity of mind? Perform a mitzvah. Even the simplest mitzvah, like putting a penny in sukkah. I don't know in England what's the smallest amount of money. Is it a shilling? Is it like a pound? Is it something else? I don't even know. I think shilling is like
a penny. It's a penny.
Oh yeah,
pence. We have pence. We have pence, and then pounds. Shillings show somebody's age.
Yeah, I was going to say I read that in a book. That's like Charles Dickens had shillings, right? Okay. So if you need clarity. So it says here, Mamash Pasuk, mitzvahs Hashem bara, the mitzvahs of Hashem are clear. Okay, it means also that you have to learn the mitzvahs clearly. You have to know. We have to know all the mitzvot that are pertaining to us, and we have to know those halachas clearly. And that's why, when you first learn certain laws, you have to ask 10,000 questions. That's fine. It's good. I remember years and years ago, when I first learned all the laws of, family purity, and I was very, very, I had to call a posek. I had to call the arbiter, the Torah, right, many, many times. And I had two of them. Both of them were students of Moshe Feinstein, and they're both in the next world already. Rav, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say the name. I'll say the names, Rabbi Blumenkranz, Rabbi Fishelis. Unbelievable. So, one of them was actually my teacher in seminary. So I would call, just because I wanted to do everything right. And I'm not an OCD kind of person, but I never heard these laws before. And all of a sudden, whoa. So I remember once calling one of them. And in those days, nobody had cell phones. You had to call the yeshiva and you had to ask for the post. It's so embarrassing. Anyway. I remember once begging, asking Rav, I think it was Rav Fishelis, I asked him, he should, or Rav Lundgren, it would be the same. I'm so sorry, I keep bothering you. He said, you don't understand, you're giving me life. I live for answering questions. That's why I'm alive. Every time you call me, don't think not to call me. If you don't call me, I'm gonna gasp for breath. Your calling me is giving me life. Now, I was this young kid. I believed him. I see when people call me, I say the same thing to them. The truth is, it's true. It's not that it means it doesn't. It's not that it's easy. It's true. So you have to learn the halachas clearly, and then they make your eyes happy. They just make your eyes sparkle. Did you ever see somebody who's just come out of an amazing shiur? I remember once, in America, when I was living in America, so one of my students, I used to teach in a certain place, and there was a very, very big tzaddik of a Rav who gave a shiur, I think before me or after me, I forgot. So I would go to that shiur also. And there was one of my students at that shiur who was a very simple-minded kind of a person. Simple, wasn't smart. I know, because he was a student of mine. And it happened to have been a very profound class, very profound shiur. Not that I gave, that the rabbi gave. And it was really awesome and amazing, but it was very deep and very profound. And I think the rabbi kept apologizing, saying, maybe this is too deep, maybe this is too... There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. Anyway, I walked out when the whole thing was over, and I finished each. I walked out, and I saw this particular student of mine. And I said to this particular student, and that student's face was shining. So I said, you like the shiur? They said, what a shiur. I said, did you understand it? They said, not a word. Not a word. But it was a great shir. So sometimes Torah, even if it's, it makes your face light up, but it should be clear to you. It should be clear to you. Now remember the word mitzvah. The word mitzvah, or how you say it, mitzvah, if you have the Sephardic ones there, is really, it doesn't just mean a commandment, actually. And that's a secondary meaning. The primary meaning, or the hashkafic meaning, is it's an action that brings you closer together, to whoever, to the commander. An action that brings closeness and unity. So a mitzvah really is Hashem trying to draw us close to him. Yeres Hashem Tahora. So you see all of these words. The fear of God is pure. Omedes La'ad is eternal. Mishpatei Hashem Emes. The judgments of Hashem are true. Tzad Kuyachtiv. They're totally and completely, absolutely fitting with each other. They're completely, they dovetail into each other. Okay, and then the rest of the parak tells us how beautiful the mitzvahs are, and the very last pasuk that you say every single day, several times a day. May the words of my mouth find favor in your eyes, Hashem. And also the thoughts of my heart. Hashem, Hashem, you are my redeemer, you are my strength. Okay, so that's parak Yud. So now what I want to show you is the following. So you see there's different lishonos, there's different words representing different ideas of Torah. We have the word Torah, we have the word Eidus, we have the word Pikudim, we have the word Yeres Hashem, Mishpatei Hashem, right? All of these words. Now we're going to jump to Parak Kuf Yud 119. So now we were just on Yud Tes 19, and now we're going to do its parallel, its older brother, Kuf Yud Tes. Now you know about Kuf Yud Tes. It's the most famous parak. It's one of the most famous parakim in Tehillim. And why is it so famous? You all know. Because if ever you've been, if ever you've said Kuf Yud Tes or you studied, it's the longest chapter in the entire Tanakh. It has 176 verses. It's written in alphabetical order. Notice it. It's written in alphabetical order, that every single letter is the beginning of 8 psukim. It starts with an aleph, right? Ashrei Sinarach aleph. You have 8 psukim that begin with an aleph. And then you have 8 psukim, the next 8 psukim begin with a base. And the next 8 psukim begin with a gimel. You see the pattern? You're looking inside, you'll see the pattern. Okay, that's a very famous pattern. It's called in the Gemara, the chapter of eights, of the number 8. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. The chapter of eights. What is 8? Why 8? Why did David HaMelech choose the number 8? We just had Hanukkah. We know that 8 is a number of supernatural, of miracles. We're already waiting for miracles. We need big, big miracles. Be'ezrat Hashem. Anyway, so he took every letter, and he made, like, for every letter, it's like a little parak of 8 psukim for every letter. So really within Kuf Yud Tes, it's really 22 prakim, 22 chapters, like sub-chapters. The first is chapter Aleph, the second is chapter Beis, the third is chapter Gimel, etc., etc. And again, if you never saw this, just look inside and you'll see it. Look, you'll notice it. And by the way, this is an incredibly handy parak to have, not just because it's so long. I'll tell you a cute thing about my Tehillim groups. And I belong to, Baruch Hashem, a bunch of Tehillim groups. Not that I say every day for all of them, but so one of my Tehillim groups, which is saying Tehillim for a person who needs a refuah. So that Tehillim group, the girls, they want to say this parak. They choose it. I'm on another Tehillim group where they split it up. Like, it's too long for me to say, it's too long for people to say, I'll do the first 3, Aleph until Gimel, Beis, whatever. It's just interesting, 2 Tehillim groups of similar kinds of people, but one of them, they recognize the value of Kuf Yud Tes, and they opt for it. They, hold out for it. They fight over it. And the other one, they divide up because it's very long. It's hard to say. But you should know that if you say, there's this teaching that says that if you say the whole Kuf Yud Tes, it's as if you said the whole Sefer Tehillim. So when you need like a really quickie saying a whole book of Tehillim, and you can't manage, like you don't have the 2.5 hours to set aside, then say Kuf Yutes. It's like you said the whole parak of Tehillim. If you want to say something for a specific person, so you could spell out their name in this parak. I think we might have learned this a long time ago, yeah. So that you could spell out their name. Let's say the person's name is Chana Bat Sarah. That's a good short name. So you first so you could say it out of order. You say all the cheses. You say the ches letter chet. Then you say the letter nun. Then you say the letter hey for Chana. You spell out Chana. Then you spell out Bat Beis Tav in the prakim, in the psukim, and then you spell out her last name. Some people omit the bat, but you're really probably supposed to put it in. If you're saying for somebody who passed away, then you say their father's name generally. You say Chana Bat, let's say Moshe, and then, or Chana Bat Avraham, and then you say the letters Nishama, Nun Shin, Mem He. So it's a very handy, convenient parak. But that's not its claim to fame. The claim to fame of this parak of Tehillim is that every single pasuk has a different word referencing Torah or mitzvot or learning Torah or thinking about Torah. And we're going to see all the different words in a second. Every pasuk except for 7 or 8 have direct words that are referencing Torah. So this parak is Kuf Yutes, is paralleling Yutes. Both of them are the chapters of Torah in Tehillim. Let's look and see a few of them, okay? The first one is easy. You see the word Torah in Pasuk Aleph. So you have enough time to get a Tehillim? So the first pasuk says the word Torah in it. The second one says the word Eidos Hav in the second pasuk. The third is harder to see. The third pasuk, the word there that refers to Hashem's Torah is Dirachav. Dirachav means his ways. So derech is another word referencing the Torah and Mitzvah. Derech and Hashem. Then in pasuk Daled you have Pikudim, and in pasuk Hey you have two words. You have Chukim and Dirachim. I'm taking the word and changing its grammar a little bit. You have Dirachai in pasuk Hey, and you have Chukecha. Both of those words are referencing Torah and Mitzvah. Okay, you got the idea? Orchotecha, look in all of the psukim have either a direct word, or if the word is not direct, then it's an indirect reference. So what do you use this for? What do you use this idea for? First of all, we're learning it now, and we're going to learn certain psukim from the parak. We're learning it now because this is the week of Torah. This is the week of the receiving of the Torah and the Parsha. That means that that event is coming to our life. Also, years and years ago, they began publicizing the following Gemara. The Gemara says, what can a person do to save themselves and their families from the difficulties, from the pre-Mashiach difficulties? I don't know if you know this, but we are now currently in pre-Mashiach challenge. Everyone agrees. Everyone says this. It's just a matter of how long this is going to last. We are in the era of Mamish, the birth of Mashiach. Meaning, I don't mean he's being born physically. He's here. He's an adult. He's ready, willing, and able. But what I'm talking about is the birth of the power of his soul being manifested into the world. That's what we're living in right now. And there were Tanaim who said, there were rabbis in the Talmud who said, they really want Mashiach to come, but they don't want to live in the time before Mashiach comes, because the darkness and the confusion and the challenges will be too hard. And they didn't mean the challenges like, food or making a living or stuff like that. They didn't mean that at all. They meant the darkness of the confusion of not seeing clarity in Hashem's behavior towards us, towards the Jewish people. So here we are in that time. We're privileged to be able to live, and Be'ezrat Hashem, please, we're begging Hashem to be able to live and see the end of it with Mashiach's revelation. Say Amen, 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 and come to the Beis HaMikdash. Be'ezrat Hashem, we should all meet in the Beis HaMikdash. I always tell all of my groups we're going to be all dancing in so many different circles. We have this sheer circle, we have another sheer circle. We have to jump from circle to circle to include all of our families, all of our spiritual families, our biological families. Okay, so the Gemara says that in order to be saved from the challenges, or in order to survive the challenges pre-Messianic, pre-Mashiach, we have to hold on to Torah and Chesed, Gemilas Chasadim. The specific mitzvahs, like I said in the beginning, the mitzvah we have to excel in now is V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. It's hard because maybe we're jealous, maybe we're argumentative, maybe we're whatever. Have to try hard to ask Hashem to help us to fulfill the mitzvah, loving every single Jew. Meaning, it doesn't mean the love with an emotion, it means respecting and behaving towards each Jew as you would like to be behaved towards. And learning Torah. Chesed and Torah, that's what's going to keep us alive. That's why we need to hold on to anchor ourselves to Perek Kuf Yutet and to Perek Yudtet. In general, any Torah learning, and in general, any Tehillim saying, and in general, any chesed, any kindness, any gemilas chasadim. But especially this week, especially this week. Okay, so let's do a few psukim in Kuf Yutet. So Rebbetzin Joanne, do me a favor, remind me, did I ever do the certain psukim in Kuf Yutet? Just nod your head or shake your head. Never did? Okay, there are certain the whole parak is fabulous, and David Melch does not need my endorsement of anything, but parak Kuf Yutet, you say it, you feel like you just went through a mikvah. It's a great parak. But the psukim are not contextual. That means one pasuk doesn't flow into the next pasuk. It's not like an idea, like Kuf Chaf Aleph, which we say Shir Amos Esa Einay Le'ari Me'ayin Yavo, right? That's one idea that flows through the whole chapter. Or a Kuf Chavav, what we say by benching, or a Chaf, when pleading for people that Hashem should help us. All of that's one idea. That's in the psukim flow, one idea to the next. This parak is not like that at all. The psukim are not. They don't flow one idea to the next. Each pasuk is an independent pasuk. That's why I'm going to pick out certain psukim that are famous and just show you certain things about them. So for those of you who have a parak, we'll have a Sefer Tehillim. So a pasuk Yud Beis in Kuf Yutet in 119 verse 12. 119 verse 12. This pasuk, this verse, you have to learn by heart. Well, I have to learn it by heart. I'm sure that you're more careful than me. The pasuk says, Baruch Atah Hashem, just like every single blessing that we say starts out, Lamdeini chukecha. Hashem, you are the source of all blessings. So teach me your chukim. Teach me your laws. Now, first of all, the code word here is chukecha, laws, right? That we said that every pasuk has a word that relates to or connects to halachas. But this one, I'm sorry, that relates to Torah mitzvahs. But this one is a very handy pasuk to have in your pocket. Why? Let's say you're about to make a bracha. Let's say you have a big piece of chocolate in front of you. It's in your hand, and you're going to make a bracha shahakol. And you say the words, Baruch Atah Hashem, and then you drop it into the mud, and there's nothing else to eat around, and you don't know what to do. But you've just said Hashem's name. You've just said the beginning of a bracha, and you do not want to break the mitzvah of the 10 Commandments that says, "Don't take God's name in vain." So what do? You say the last two words, "Lamdeini chukecha," and then you have said a whole pasuk. You're permitted, it's allowed to say Hashem's name when you're saying a whole verse in Tanakh, anywhere in Tanakh. In fact, here in Eretz Yisrael, there's a certain school of thought that when they teach Tanakh, they actually on purpose use Hashem's name. In other words, when I'm teaching a pasuk, I'll say like Bereshit bara Elokim. I don't say God's name, but there's a certain school of thought here in Israel that will say when they'll learn and they'll say Hashem's name in the pasuk that they're quoting or that they're teaching, if they're saying a complete verse, a complete pasuk. So here you have this pasuk, Baruch Atah Hashem, you already know by heart. You just have to learn 2 words by heart. Lamdeini, teach me, chukecha, your laws. And then if you ever mess up, you could say this pasuk. Good? Okay. Another famous pasuk in the Gimel section. A famous pasuk in the Gimel section. Perek pasuk Yudchet, 18. Famous pasuk. This one you might not know by heart, but it's a very famous pasuk. And it's also very handy to have at your fingertips whenever you need to understand something. Gal einai, open up my eyes, ve'abita, so that I could see niflaot mitoratecha, the wonders of your Torah. We're asking Hashem to open up our eyes to see the niflot. A pella means like the miraculousness of the Torah. There, by the way, you have the word Torah there, right? And tell me, sometimes you could say this for one of your kids. By the way, you could say the whole parak for anybody, if you see, but especially for, let's say you have one of the kids, and they don't have a good teacher this year and whatever, one of their Chumash classes or one of their, their Limudei Kodesh classes. Let's just say it happens that they don't have it, that they have a teacher, that teacher and them don't shtim. They don't, it's not just like, it's not a good shidduch. So it could be a great teacher, great kid. They just have a different way of thinking and teaching and learning. And anyway, you want your kid, you want your child to love the Torah, despite the difficulties of the teacher that might not be so easy for that child. Here's the pasuk that you say, and you say it exactly as it's written, Gal einai, even though it says open my eyes, but you're saying it for your child. You say the words of the pasuk, but you're saying it for them. Open their eyes that they should see the wonders of the Torah, despite all of the challenges that that particular child or husband or brother or whatever has. So you say it for yourself, you say it for somebody else. I daven all the time for my grandchildren. They should have inspiring teachers, inspiring rebbes. I all the time daven for them. So here's a pasuk that helps us. It's a pasuk that takes that concept and it takes your prayer that you just made up anyway and it puts it into a pasuk. One of my precious, precious beloved friends who's in the next world, the Rebbetzin. So she said that the Rebbe taught her this. He said that whenever you have your own personal prayer that you want to say, it's, if you could find a pasuk in anywhere in Tanakh that also expresses your own personal thing that you want, it doesn't have to be the totality of what you want, but if it's the same topic of an idea that you want, and it's a pasuk in Tanakh, write it down and say it. In addition to your own talking to Hashem in your own language, and it's sort of like a booster rocket for the rocket ship. It boosts its tefillah. Whenever you come across a pasuk that you like, write it down someplace. Whenever you find it's relevant, write it down someplace. We used to write down with pen and paper. Now people write down in their stuff, their machines, their devices, their phones. Whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. Okay. Another famous pasuk. There's so many famous pasukim in this parak. Let's look at the chesed. This is a famous pasuk. A very cute story that goes along with it. Parak pasuk nun tes 59, chapter 119, Tehillim verse 59, 5-9 Nuntes, in the Ches section of Ches. This is, I'm sure you know the story. David HaMelech said, Chishafti derachai, va'ashiva raglai elei dosecha. David HaMelech says, I planned out my day. Chishafti derachai means I made a cheshbon, I made a calculation of my derech, of what I'm supposed to do today, the path I'm supposed to go on today. And what ended up happening? I had a whole long list. It's Erev Shabbos by us, right? A whole long list. Yeah, we all have. I have a whole long list. I'm sure you also do. So, but what ended up happening to David HaMelech? He also had a whole long list, and his long list. He was a king. Okay, so he didn't have to make chicken soup, and he didn't have to all that stuff. But he had other things to do. He had to meet this king, and he had to meet that king, and he had to arbitrate this court case, and he had to learn Torah, and he had to daven, and he had to, say hi to all of his wives and children. He had a whole long list of things to do. And what ended up happening? But my feet took me into the base medrash. That's what it says. Medrash tells us. I was on my way from my house, from my room, straight into the court, into the throne room, and I took a detour to the base medrash. And the next thing I knew, it was like supper. It was like that night. David HaMelech said that my feet took me into the place where my heart was drawing me towards. And although he had to be responsible and actually fulfill his commitments, but he ended up being drawn towards the base medrash. I'm sure, it says about David HaMelech that he never had to wash Negel Maser because he used to sleep 20 minutes at a time. He used to sleep like a horse. He would doze for 20 minutes. I wouldn't mind, okay, well, whatever. Everybody gets the gifts that they get. But we know that the less you sleep, the more, and if you can manage on less amount of sleep, then you can accomplish a little bit more. When you feel like you have to take a nap, it's a good thing to take a nap during the day. It somehow extends your day. Even a half an hour can push off bedtime for a long time. So David HaMelech was able to accomplish what he needed to accomplish, but he's showing us that I had a whole cheshbon, and it turns out that I ended up learning, which is not a bad thing at all. In that same section of the Chesed, Samach Beis 62, another famous medrash, Chatzos Laila Akum Lahodos Lach. And I'm hoping that you're noticing that every one of these psukim also has a reference to Torah and mitzvot, but it's not telling us. The parak doesn't tell us keep Torah, keep mitzvot. It's not like that. It's not a direct like that. It's within the message of King David that our David HaMelech, that our David Melech Mashiach is telling us. Within that message, he's reminding us of all of these code words of Torah mitzvahs, etc. So look at this one. This one I'm sure you know also. Chatzos Laila, in the middle of the night, at midnight, Akum, I get up, Lahodos Lach, to say thank you to you, Hashem. Al mishpatei tzidkecha, for your righteous judgments. So we know the Medrash tells us, I'm sure you know it. I can actually show you my picture. Let's see if you can see it. Let's see if I can show you my picture of, let's see. It's going to mess up my whole camera thing. There is it. Oh, it's in the back of my head. No, wrong picture. This picture. Can you see? Oh, there's the picture. So if you make your screens big, you see. This is a picture that was presented to me by a big bunch of my students that are now, each one of them is Rebbetzins. I can't get even closer. And it's a picture of this medrash, David HaMelech's harp, and the window's open. Can you see it? Anyway, whatever. It's this medrash. They found a picture of it someplace. I framed it and gave it to me. A bunch of Tehillim students, big tzidkaniyot now, just like all of you. Anyway, it says that David HaMelech would try, he needed to set an alarm clock, and he did not have an electric alarm clock. He didn't have Waze. No, that's the wrong thing. He didn't have Siri, and I forgot all the names of all the different machines that talk to you. Alexa, and all those stuff. He didn't have any of that. So what did he do? He put his harp in the window, and Hashem just at midnight, Hashem made a wind, and the strings of his harp were very, very sensitive, and they would vibrate, and he would hear that, and that was his alarm clock, and he would get up and he would say, "Thank you, Hashem, for waking me up." And he would learn Torah all night. And the Gemara says that when the people of Jerusalem saw that the light in the king's bedroom turned on, I guess they knew that that was where he was, they would all say, "The king is so busy, and he gets up in the middle of the night to learn Torah, so should we." That's his pasuk, Chatzos Laila, in the middle of the night. Akum, I get up, lahodos lach, to say thank you to you, Hashem. Now, you might, for those of you who know a little bit of grammar, you might be asking a big question here, because, and I want to point this out to you, is that you should look in your siddur, and you'll see it happens a few times in your siddur during Shachris, during Shemona Esrei. Chatzos Laila, middle of the night, that's grammatically fine. Akum, I get up, that's fine. Lehodos, to say thank you. Lach. Lach is the feminine of to you. Normally, when we talk about Hashem, we talk about lecha. Lecha Hashem hagzula, right? Lecha. Here is lach. What does that mean? Is Hashem's masculine or feminine? And you'll see, right? Of course, Hashem is neither. Hashem created, right? But when we're talking to Hashem, I was going to tell you the answer, but maybe I'll give you homework and ask you to look, be careful and look carefully in your siddur when you daven. Okay, and maybe we'll I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to give you an assignment to look carefully when you daven and see in the siddur. Okay, you have to really daven from beginning to the end, but certainly until the end of Shemona Esrei. See if you see that the gender, so to speak, changing from masculine to feminine when referring to Hashem. What does that mean? Okay, so it's certainly something deeper than I could understand and we could learn. It's very, very deep. But there's a few things that we can understand. First of all, we know that when Hashem has two famous names, Yud Kei Vav Kei, which we do not pronounce, and Elokim. And we know that Yud Kei Vav Kei references or refers to Hashem when he's acting towards us with compassion and with love. And Elokim references or refers to when Hashem is acting towards us with judgment, with justice, with strictness. So you might say that the masculine aspect is when Hashem is showing his power, and the feminine aspect is when Hashem is showing us his love. You could say that. You could also say that the feminine aspect is referring to something called the Shechina. I'm sure you've heard that word, the Shechina. The Shechina means Hashem's presence in this world. Hashem in his essence is unimaginable, undefinable, etc. But Hashem allows us to talk to him, to think about him, to imitate him. And sometimes we feel Hashem's presence in our life, and we call that the Shechina. That's an easy way of describing Shechina. So here, when David HaMelech is referring to Lach, feminine, he could be referring to the presence of Hashem in our life. In other words, our personal, private relationship with God, as opposed to the Almighty. When we talk about Hashem as the Almighty, the Creator, the Master, those are all more masculine forms of our understanding Hashem. Now remember, this is all from our understanding of Hashem and our relating to Hashem. This is not Hashem at all in his essence. Hashem in his essence is unimaginable for us at this point. But we relate to Hashem. Don't you talk to Hashem? Don't you cry to him? Don't you dance with him? Don't you laugh with him? Don't you sing to him? Of course, that is a very personal relationship. We don't do that with you don't do that with the CEO of your company or a king or you do that with someone that you feel that's powerful, but that's close to you. And that's why it's like Avinu Malkeinu. It should be Imenu Malkeinu. On this, according to this understanding. But it's not, it's Avinu Malkeinu. But it's the same idea, that when we're referring to Hashem in that way, it refers to the ability for a human being, for us to relate to Hashem and feel close to him. I have one of my grandsons, a sweetheart. When he was little, he used to, whenever we would talk about Hashem, he would always call Hashem her. I would say, Hashem loves you. He says, she does? Tell me what she looks like. Tell me. It would always, he's a very intuitive child, this one. And by nature, no one told him that. In fact, his siblings would make fun of him. Don't say Hashem is she, say Hashem is he. But he said, no, Hashem is she. He understood that. I have to remind him about that when I speak to him later. Now he's almost coming by mitzvah. My sweethearts, have a great Shabbos. Wait, let me say hello to everybody now. I can. Don't move. If you saw moving, then my screen goes crazy. Good morning, Miriam, my Tehillim sayer. And good morning, Pauline. And Susan, good morning. Susan Franklin and Ilana Hershkowitz. And good morning, Ginny. And Deborah Kay. Good morning. It's good to see you. And Chana Zisel, I just see your name, but I know you're there. Hi, Dvar Hoffman. It's so good to see you. And hi, Gila. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful picture in back of you. And Karen, whoa, you're ironing. That's awesome. And Sim Zavora, we didn't see you this Shabbat this week. A whole week I didn't see you, but I'm glad I see you now. Dina, hi, Dina Friedlander. And hi, Juliet Schneiderman. Good morning. And hi, Tzipi. I see you working very hard in the office. Thank you for everything, Tzipi. And Sarla Goldstein, good morning. And Ruthie, I saw you before, and thank you for everything as always. Wait, you're getting off of my thing. Don't move. Don't sign off yet so I can say hi to everybody. Julia, did I say hi to you? Yeah, I said. Hi, Dahlia Resnick. I saw you popping on and popping in. 1 second. I know because your internet stuff goes off. I know that. Hi, Mrs. Rebbetzin Gerald. And hi, Rebbetzin Morris. And hi, Allison's iPhone. And Joanne Administrator. And another Joanne Administrator. That means Joanne's mom. And hi, Janice. And Naomi. Good morning. And hi, Annie King. And hi, Marcel. I forgot. You told me your name. I forgot what it is. And hi, Rebbetzin F. And oh my gosh, you're all jumping around again. Oh no, Rebbetzin F again. Family Langer. Good morning. Donna, Debbie, Michal. I didn't see you this week, Michal. I think I did. Maybe I did. Wait, don't go. STH, Barbara, Sonia, and Bella Lewis. Good morning. Oh, you remind me of somebody else that I have to call. Hi, Debbie. Wait. Oh no, I know all the phone numbers. And STH. And all the phone numbers from England. I don't know your names, but your phone numbers. Thank you, everybody. Whoa, good Shabbos. Yeah, you're Rebbetzin. And, Rebecca, right. Oh, okay, sorry. You're Rebbetzin also. Okay, Chevra, good Shabbos. Stay safe. Stay healthy.